starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 401, Humiliation. Martial artists naturally built buildings extremely quickly. In just one afternoon, a huge building was built on the opposite side. In addition, it was even taller and larger than the commander residence. If one did not know better and looked over, they would think that the new building was the commander residence. At the moment, the place Zhou Hao and the others lived seemed like a residence for subordinates. Regarding this, Zhang Yi and the others were naturally very unwilling. Of course, it was not simply because their building was better, but because this was blatant humiliation. Zhou Hao did not care at all. It did not matter what they did. In the evening, bodyguard Chen arrived again. Although he was not as arrogant this time, it was still obvious that he was disdainful. The three vice-commanders have invited the commanders to admire the new building. At that time, the big shots of the Red Cliff Abyss will also come to congratulate the three of them. Please don't forget to come. After saying this, bodyguard Chen left. Looking at the invitation, Yuan Cheng and the others were even more furious. Those three people were definitely doing this on purpose. What's there to be angry about? This is actually quite convenient. With this, we can also get to know what kind of demons and monsters are in the Red Cliff Abyss. Zhou Hao smiled indifferently, not caring at all. If we go just like that, won't we be bullied to death? Yuan Cheng couldn't help but ask. What's there to be afraid of? We're from the Green Cloud Division. Even if they don't like us, they still have to meet with us. To put it bluntly, we should go even if we're not welcomed. After all, why waste the opportunity to discuss them? Moreover, the Red Cliff Abyss is even more difficult to resolve than this 100 city. If we want to resolve the matter in the Red Cliff Abyss, we have to resolve the three of them. Therefore, we can also use this opportunity to get to know our enemies. Zhou Hao was not worried at all. Even if these people worked together, they still could not beat him. If he wanted to, he could also attack them secretly. With his quasi-heaven realm level and his heaven realm strength, it was too easy for him to kill these people. Alright, let's go take a look then. The few of them nodded when they heard Zhou Hao say this. At night, Zhou Hao and the others arrived at the vice-commander residence. Bodyguard Chen personally led them in. It had to be said that their efficiency was really high. In just an afternoon, they had built such a grand and luxurious building. They did have some ability. Here are your seats. Please understand that the people who came here are all honorable guests. We can't neglect them. After all, the 100 city is still far inferior to the Red Cliff Abyss. The three of us vice-commanders are only pretending to be snakes to ensure that the 100 city is safe and sound. Therefore, we can only let you suffer a little. Bodyguard Chen spoke nicely, but Zhou Hao and the others were directly placed in the corner of the hall. This could be said to be the worst seats in the room. It was obvious that Yin Feng and the other two wanted to see Zhou Hao and the others make a fool of themselves. Have a seat. Zhou Hao did not care at all. At this moment, after they sat down, the people from the Red Cliff Abyss also arrived one after another. Yin Feng and the other two also came out and began to receive them. Aya, Senior Qian from the Brilliant Club is here. Please take a seat. Boss Zhou from the auction house is here. You're finally here. Quick, have a seat. The leader of the mercenary group, Commander An, is also here. You've really graced our humble abode with your presence. Take a seat. President's son, you're here too. Ha ha ha, quick, quick, come in, come in. Not long after, a few important figures arrived. Although Zhou Hao and the others had never seen these people before, they could still recognize them because of the information they were given. This Brilliant Club Senior Qian was a supernatural expert. His club was very luxurious. He did all kinds of transactions, including human trafficking. In fact, he was involved in all kinds of unexpected and unethical businesses. It was the same for Boss Zhou of the auction house. As a fourth-grade supernatural expert, he dares to auction all kinds of things in his auction house. He would even auction ordinary human women who were bought by mutated beasts as slaves to warm their beds. It could be said that he was heartless. On the other hand, Commander N of that mercenary group was relatively normal. He would enter the vicinity of the Red Cliff Abyss to kill some mutated beasts and could also be considered as a hot-blooded man. As for President Sun of the Weapon Company, he was not a good person either. He killed and robbed people, committing all kinds of crimes. It could be said that other than Zhou Hao and the others, no one else was good. And this was the current situation of the 100 City and the Red Cliff Abyss. The Green Cloud Division did not care about the chaos here at all. It was also because they needed a place like this to gather these bad guys together. Otherwise, with all the bad guys spread out, it would not be easy for them to handle either. The reason why the Green Cloud Division had sent Zhou Hao and the others here was also to reclaim the Red Cliff Abyss. Even if they couldn't, they would still be able to train and grow. These people are all on the must-kill list. Remember, during our time here, if we don't eliminate them, our mission won't be considered as successful. Zhou Hao looked at them and said. They all nodded, naturally understanding what Zhou Hao meant. Soon, the banquet began, and the scene began to turn chaotic. I heard that the Green Cloud Division sent a few commanders over. Brother Yin, why don't you introduce them? At this moment, Senior Qian from the Brilliant Club spoke. This person looked like a beast in human clothing as he swept his gaze over Zhou Hao and the others with a cold intent. That's right, Brother Yin. Aren't you a little too much? You should introduce them. After all, aren't you afraid of the Green Cloud Division sending people to kill you? Boss Zhou also spoke with a teasing tone. Yin Feng smiled slightly, but Hua Manlu hurriedly stood up. Ayo, look. I was so happy today that I actually forgot about this matter. Come, everyone, let me introduce you. These are the new commanders of our 100 City. They are called that. I can't remember their names. Sorry. Hua Manlu smiled. After he finished speaking, the group's expressions turned even uglier. Only Zhou Hao remained indifferent. If you can't remember, then don't bother. Just know that we're the commanders. Zhou Hao said indifferently. His words made Hua Manlu frown. It was the same for the others. He had said this to humiliate Zhou Hao and the others. Who knew that this brat was actually so shameless to say such a thing? Haha, as expected of someone from the Green Cloud Division, you're indeed extraordinary. However, it's not easy to be the commander of 100 City. What capabilities do you have to be a commander? At this moment, President Sun of the Weapon Company spoke with a sneer. His words were filled with killing intent as the aura of a supernatural expert erupted. Chapter 402, Strange Actions. President Sun had a third-grade supernatural cultivation and his aura was very powerful. It directly suppressed Zhou Hao and the others. That force was not something Zhou Hao and the others could resist at all. The faces of Yuan Cheng and the others instantly turned pale. Even Su Ling's expression was not very good. Zhou Hao narrowed his eyes, looked at President Sun, and smiled. President Sun, your cultivation level is indeed extraordinary. Seeing you today, I'm really impressed. However, this position of commander was given by the Green Cloud Division. There's nothing we can do about it. If you're not convinced, you can ask the Green Cloud Division about it. It's useless to ask us. Zhou Hao dodged the question. His intention was very clear. He wanted to tell them that their commander status was given to them by the Green Cloud Division. Whether they were convinced or not, it would not change anything. President Sun naturally understood this, but he sneered. That's true. However, fellow commanders, this Red Cliff Abyss is very dangerous. You have to be careful. It's just that I know that many people have fallen into this god-forsaken place because of the Green Cloud Division. Therefore, you have to be careful when you walk at night in the future. Who knows, someone might jump out and kill you. President Sun's words were naturally very threatening. Zhou Hao also knew that President Sun had ended up in this place because of the Green Cloud Division. If he couldn't stay anywhere else, he could only come to this lawless place. Although he was currently the boss of a weapon company, he still hated the Green Cloud Division to the core. Naturally, he also hated Zhou Hao and the others. Thank you for your warning, President Sunday. We'll take your advice. However, President Sun, you also have to be careful in the future. If you provoke someone you shouldn't provoke, bad things will happen to you. With you, what are the employees of your weapon company supposed to do? Zhou Hao was naturally not afraid and retorted. President Sun chuckled and did not waste his breath. However, he had already made up his mind. Everyone, you're our guests. Come, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's continue to have fun. Hua Manlu smiled and said. However, Zhou Hao shook his head and stood up. Everyone is here today. In that case, things will be easy. Senior Qian, Boss Zhou, Commander An, and President Sun, I have something to tell you. Zhou Hao's sudden reaction stunned them. Even Su Ling and the others were stunned. They did not know what Zhou Hao was planning to do. Instead, Commander An said, "What's the matter? Just say it." Zhou Hao directly opened his communication channel and opened the virtual message, making it appear in the room. This information contained the crimes of the four of them, and every single one of them was clearly recorded. Boss Qian, this brilliant club of yours has violated the regulations of the human race on planet Earth. Some of the businesses that are opened there are prohibited by the human race on planet Earth. I order you to reform your businesses within 7 days. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Boss Zhou, your auction house made illegal profits. You even involved yourself with human trafficking and auctioned things that shouldn't be auctioned at all. You will have to serve 50 years in prison for this. Commander and your mercenary group has killed other human martial artists for the sake of treasures. You also have to return to the Green Cloud Division with me to be investigated. Also, President Sun, many of your weapons company's assets belong to the human race. I need you to hand them over. Otherwise, you will also need to go to jail. Zhou Hao's voice was not loud, but after he finished speaking, everyone was stunned. Although they all knew these things, they did not expect Zhou Hao to convict them here on the spot. This was a lawless place. Did he really think he could order them around like a commander? It was not only the four of them who were shocked. Even Yin Feng and the other two were stunned by Zhou Hao's words. Was this brat courting death? How dare he say such things? Su Ling and the others were the same. Although they knew in their hearts, Zhou Hao was still too bold to say it so fearlessly in front of so many supernatural experts and even wanted to punish them. Indeed, after saying this, Boss Zhou was the first to be furious. He directly stood up and used the aura of a supernatural expert. Kid, what the hell are you talking about? Do you think this is the Green Cloud Division? Do you believe that I'll kill you? After he finished speaking, Senior Qian, Commander An, and President Sun also sneered. Their aura as supernatural experts erupted, and they even looked like they wanted to kill Zhou Hao. Instead, it was Zhou Hao who directly said coldly, "What? Do you guys want to disobey the order?" Vice Commander Yin Feng, Vice Commander Hua Manlu, and Vice Commander Tu Shan, quickly take down the four of them. Zhou Hao immediately shouted. This sentence was rather shocking. They thought that Zhou Hao had some tricks up his sleeve. It turned out that he was relying on the three of them all along. Ha ha ha, Senior Commander, are you joking? Or are you stupid? I'm dying of laughter. Senior Qian from the Brilliant Club was the first to laugh, his eyes filled with ridicule. He originally thought that since this brat was so courageous, he would have some tricks up his sleeve if he said something like this. However, he did not expect him to be a fool who was counting on Yin Feng and the others to attack. What are you laughing at? Vice Commander Yin Feng, Vice Commander Hua Manlu, and Vice Commander Tu Shan, did you hear what I said? Our cultivation levels are not high enough and we're unable to kill these people. Therefore, we can only leave it to you guys. I know that it's not good for you to make a move now. It's fine, you can secretly make a move later. Your mission today is to capture Boss Zhou first. I'll wait for your good news. After he spoke, Zhou Hao did not waste his breath and left with Su Ling and the others. This stunned everyone present. Even Su Ling and the others were puzzled, not knowing what Zhou Hao was trying to do. Don't worry, there's a good show to watch. Tonight, this Boss Zhou will definitely die. Zhou Hao said indifferently, making Su Ling and the others even more confused. Clearly, Yin Feng and the other two were on their side. They still wanted to kill the 6 of them, so why would they kill Boss Zhou and the others? However, seeing that Zhou Hao was so determined, they could only believe that he was being serious for the time being. On the other hand, the vice commanders were amused by Zhou Hao's actions. Capture me? Ha ha ha, this is too interesting. Brother Yin, are you really going to capture me? Boss Zhou couldn't help but joke. Ha ha ha, how is that possible? This brat called Zhou Hao must be crazy. With our relationship, how could we possibly attack you? Yin Feng and the others also laughed. Soon, the banquet ended in their fun. As for Zhou Hao, he also turned into a stream of light and disappeared from the commander residence. When he appeared, he had already arrived above Boss Zhou and the others. Chapter 403, Setup. Zhou Hao used the darkness to hide his figure. His silver 1,000 feather armor was hidden in the darkness with a murderous aura. Boss Zhou did not know that his supernatural cultivation was completely insignificant in Zhou Hao's eyes. He's really slow. He actually didn't sense my killing intent. I'll remind him then. Zhou Hao smiled and stood in midair. His powerful cultivation level leaked slightly and swept down with powerful killing intent. Boss Zhou drank several times more than usual tonight. Normally, with the physique of a supernatural expert, they would not get drunk at all. Once the alcohol entered their bodies, it would be exhausted. However, he liked the feeling of being drunk, so he did not use the strength in his body to eliminate the alcohol. However, at this moment, he felt an extremely powerful killing intent spread over, making his scalp tingle and his hair stand on end. Without saying a word, he activated his cultivation and caused the effects of the alcohol to disappear. He immediately looked into the sky. There, a silver figure was looking down at him. That powerful cultivation made his heart skip a beat. This person wants to kill me. He was frightened. As the owner of the auction house in the Red Cliff Abyss and a supernatural expert, he naturally knew that the other party had ill intentions towards him. He wanted to escape, but under that aura, he really did not dare to move rashly. This person is a quasi-heaven realm expert. He's really too powerful. Damn, why would a quasi-heaven realm expert appear? Could it be that the Green Cloud Division has sent someone to kill me? That shouldn't be the case. Boss Zhou did not understand, but he still looked at Zhou Hao and said, "Sir, I'm Zhou Kong. May I ask what you want?" Although he could sense the killing intent, he did not know that it was Zhou Hao. He only probed because he felt lucky. On the other hand, Zhou Hao smiled and could not help but say, "Boss Zhou, did you forget the order from the commander at the banquet?" Order? Boss Zhou was stunned for a moment, but he quickly regained his senses and was suddenly shocked. "You're saying you want to kill me?" Thinking of this, he knew that it was over. This person was here to kill him. Without saying a word, his body moved, wanting to escape. As long as he entered the Red Cliff Abyss, he would have a chance to be saved. However, why would Zhou Hao give him such a chance? The release of the 1,000 feather armor gravity domain immediately made Boss Zhou's body sink. At this moment, Zhou Hao's body had already arrived in front of him. Without any hesitation, he controlled the 9 revolutions overlord body art and punched down with invincible strength. Boss Joe looked at this fist as fear flashed in his eyes. He had been punched in the body without hesitation. The strength made him unable to resist at all, and the traces of his life were instantly wiped away. Until his death, he did not understand who the person in front of him was. However, he was already dead and would never be able to find out. Boss Joe died directly, and Joe Hao carried his corpse on his body. His body moved, and he appeared in the vice commander residence, quietly placing him in the courtyard. With Joe Hao's cultivation, his movement was not something these supernatural experts could detect. He was naturally able to move around freely. We'll just have to wait for a good show tomorrow. Joe Hao smiled and left. The reason why he did this was to isolate these 3 vice commanders and completely cut off their relationship with the big shots of the Red Cliff Abyss. It was even to the extent of sowing discord between them while he sat idly by and watched the tigers fight. He planned on using these 3 people to weaken the Red Cliff Abyss. He would also let the power of the Red Cliff Abyss suppress these 3 people for his own use. This was Joe Hao's solution and also the simplest one. Joe Hao left and returned to his room to sleep. The next morning, bodyguard Chen woke up as usual and prepared breakfast for the 3 vice commanders. Last night, he had fun too late and had drunk a lot. When bodyguard Chen woke up in the morning, he still had a headache. He walked out of his room in a daze and went to the courtyard. After taking a few steps, he was stunned for a moment and smelled a faint smell of blood. As a Grand Master, he still had this ability. He was a little surprised, not knowing where the smell of blood came from. Looking around, he was immediately shocked. A corpse lay outside the door, and its blood had already been drained. To him, the death of a person was nothing. It mainly depended on the person who died. However, when he walked over and saw that the person who had died was Boss Joe, his face turned pale, his scalp went numb, and cold sweat broke out on his back. Not good, Vice Commander, not good. Bodyguard Chen immediately screamed and rushed into Yin Feng's room. Yin Feng frowned and could not help but say, "Why are you panicking so early in the morning?" Not good, he's dead. Bodyguard Chen stammered, not knowing what to say. "What do you mean dead? Tell me who's dead." Yin Feng was furious and slapped him. This slap made bodyguard Chen's nose bleed, but he still hurriedly spoke. Senior Joe from the auction house is dead. He died at the entrance of our residence. His corpse is at the entrance." Bodyguard Chen trembled. The moment he said this, Yin Feng's expression instantly changed. He took a step forward, and when he appeared, he had already arrived at the entrance of the Vice Commander residence. When he saw Zhou Kong lying at the entrance deader than dead, his head buzzed. "Big brother, what's wrong?" At this moment, Hua Manlu and Tu Shan walked over. They were still somewhat surprised at the commotion. However, when they saw Zhou Kong lying on the ground, they were also dumbfounded. What's going on? Why is Senior Zhou Kong dead?" Tu Shan's eyes widened in disbelief. On the other hand, Hua Manlu's expression was extremely ugly. "How could this be? Won't this implicate us? This must have been done by Zhou Hao and the others. They want to implicate us for his death." Hua Manlu immediately analyzed the situation. He was right. Anyone who wasn't an idiot could guess who had done this. However, Yin Feng shook his head directly. "Even if they did it, this matter will still fall on the 3 of us. Those bastards are only grandmasters. No one would think that they were able to kill a 4th-grade supernatural expert. Therefore, regardless of whether they suspect us or not, we're the most suspicious since Zhou Kong died at our entrance." Yin Feng was still relatively calm and saw through it instantly. Hearing this, Tu Shan and Hua Manlu's expressions changed. They had never expected things to turn out this way. They were clearly fine last night, but why did something like this happen when they opened their eyes early in the morning? They were very shocked. Who on earth had killed Dad Zhou? However, at this moment, a roar sounded from afar. Zhou Baishan, the official son of Zhou Kong, had rushed over. "You bastards, you dare to kill my father? You're courting death." Chapter 404, Putting on a Show. Zhou Baishan had received news from the mysterious person early in the morning that his father had been killed by Yin Feng and the other two, so he rushed over. When he saw his father's corpse lying on the ground, his face was instantly filled with gloom. His peak-level Grandmaster aura also erupted as he roared repeatedly. Yin Feng and the other two's expressions panicked. Although Zhou Kong was dead, the people behind his auction house still could not be underestimated. Moreover, the people of the Red Cliff Abyss were very united. If they killed Zhou Kong, the others would not sit idly by. "Nephew, listen to me first. We didn't kill your father. Don't you know about our relationship? Why would we kill him?" Yin Feng hurriedly said, but Zhou Baishan did not believe him at all. "It wasn't you? *T. The Green Cloud Division has already given the order to take over the Red Cliff Abyss. Moreover, you were given an order to kill him last night. Now that my father died in your courtyard, you say that it has nothing to do with you? Who are you trying to fool?" Zhou Baishan roared. He originally did not believe it, but when he saw the mysterious letter, he became certain. Yin Feng and the other two were originally chased out of the Green Cloud Division, after all. Due to this, they were unable to leave this place. The cultivation resources here were scarce and extremely poor. As long as the Green Cloud Division paid a huge sum, the three of them would definitely be willing to take action. It was even to the extent that the mysterious letter had already written that if they resolved this Red Cliff Abyss, the three of them would regain their freedom and would even be given the resources to break through to the quasi-heaven realm. Who would not be tempted by such an offer? "Nephew, what do you mean? We would not obey the Green Cloud Division at all." Yin Feng was extremely anxious and immediately said. *T. Even now, you still want to lie to me? You were the ones who killed my father. I know about the offer too. You were promised your freedom as well as more resources in return for helping them take back the Red Cliff Abyss by killing my father. Do you think that I don't know? Zhou Baishan directly fell out with them. After saying this, the three of them were dumbfounded. How can this be? How is this possible? Yin Feng felt a headache coming on. Even Hua Manlu felt the same. Damn, we've fallen into Zhou Hao's trap. He must have said this to sow discord between us and the important members of the Red Cliff Abyss. Hua Manlu instantly understood, but what was the use? However, at this moment, a few more figures arrived from the horizon. They were Senior Qian, Commander An, and President Sunday. Not only that, but two supernatural experts also followed. Yin Feng, Hua Manlu, Tu Shan, the three of you are really bold. You actually dared to kill Boss Zhou of our Red Cliff Abyss. You're simply courting death. Senior Qian roared. Although they appeared to be on good terms with Yin Feng and the others, things were different now. They had killed Boss Zhou to challenge their Red Cliff Abyss. How could they tolerate this? Indeed, despicable people are only after benefits. For the sake of freedom, you actually killed Boss Zhou. Yin Feng, the three of you are really courting death. At this moment, Commander An also spoke. The aura of his supernatural cultivation erupted, as if he wanted to attack at any moment. Commander An, we really didn't. Think about it. Even if we wanted to kill Boss Zhou, why would we kill him at our entrance and just leave his corpse here? This must be someone else's scheme. Don't fall for it. Hua Manlu also hurriedly spoke up at this moment, worried that they would start fighting. Moreover, Commander An, think about it. Last night, Zhou Hao told us to attack you, but today, Boss Zhou died. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Hua Manlu immediately said, hoping that they would understand. However, at this moment, a soft voice sounded from outside the door. Vice Commander Hua, what are you afraid of them for? Since we've already done it, why be afraid of being discovered? Moreover, our Green Cloud Division wants to resolve the problem at the Red Cliff Abyss. As for the rest of you, if you obey the law from now on, you might still be able to live. If you guys don't go against the law, you will end up like Boss Joe. Zhou Hao's voice sounded, and the 6 of them walked over. Hearing Zhou Hao's words, Zhou Baishan's expression turned even uglier. He roared, "How dare you! I want you to die!" He roared angrily and looked at Commander An and the others. "Uncles, you were my father's closest friends when he was alive. Now that he has been killed by a despicable person, please avenge him." Zhou Baishan hurriedly said. Yin Feng and the other 2 were extremely anxious. "Everyone, we can swear to God that we really didn't kill Boss Joe. Moreover, Boss Joe is a 4th-grade supernatural expert. Even if we attack, we probably can't kill him without any commotion." Yin Feng tried to persuade them. It had to be said that what Yin Feng said made sense. However, how could Zhou Hao give him a chance to refute? "Vice Commander Yin, didn't I say that we don't have to be afraid of them? You're all supernatural experts. What's there to be afraid of? If they dare to attack you, I'll get the Green Cloud Division to send their troops over. It won't be hard for them to kill a few mere supernatural experts. Moreover, have you forgotten that after this matter is over, you will regain your freedom? Not only that, but there will also be rewards to help you to reach quasi-heaven realm cultivation. Think about it. Compared to these rewards, killing a few people is nothing." As soon as Zhou Hao said this, Yin Feng was at a loss of words. This made Commander An and the others' expressions turn even uglier. All of them looked coldly at Zhou Hao, Yin Feng, and the others. They wished they could burn their bones and scatter their ashes. "No, don't talk nonsense. We didn't kill Boss Joe. You guys must have done it. You guys were the ones who set us up so that you could sow discord between us." Hua Manlu immediately roared. He was really afraid that if they offended the people from the Red Cliff Abyss, they would be done for. They were not like Zhou Hao and the others who were assigned here on a mission. If Zhou Hao and the others were injured, the Green Cloud Division might send experts over. However, if they were injured, only death awaited them. Us? Vice Commander Yin, are you kidding me? The few of us combined are still not even strong enough to withstand Boss Joe. Even if you want to blame us, you have to think of a better lie. Do you really think they'll believe such a ridiculous lie? Zhou Hao smiled and said directly. Yuan Cheng and the others behind him were also very shocked. They still did not understand how Boss Joe died. Last night, Zhou Hao had said that he wanted Yin Feng and the others to kill Boss Joe. Now that Boss Joe was really dead, all of them could not escape the responsibility. Moreover, among them, the 3 vice commanders were the most suspicious. After all, they were supernatural experts while Zhou Hao and the others were only grandmasters. No, no. You must have invited a big shot. A big shot who's even stronger than us. He was the one who killed Boss Joe. You're framing us. Chapter 405, The True Purpose of Killing. Yin Feng hurriedly said. He was really afraid. That was why he was guessing randomly. After all, they really did not kill this person. Zhou Hao and the others were only grandmasters and did not have the ability to kill supernatural experts. The only explanation was that Zhou Hao and the others had invited a supernatural expert. Zhou Hao had long expected Yin Feng and the others to say this. He could not help but sigh and directly opened his mouth to say, Vice Commander Yin Feng, have you not woken up from your drunken stupor? How could you say something like that? If what you said were true, then why would I waste so much effort? If I was able to invite an expert to help, I would have already invited a quasi-heaven realm expert to directly kill all of you. After all, that would save me a lot of trouble. Although Zhou Hao's words did not sound pleasant, it was true. If the Green Cloud Division wanted to kill them, it would be easy. Any quasi-heaven realm expert would be able to flatten them. However, since they have not done so for so many years, it also meant that they would not suddenly send a mysterious expert to secretly kill Boss Joe now. What you said makes sense, but then what's going on? Hua Manlu was still smart. He knew that Zhou Hao was not wrong. In fact, what he said was quite reasonable. The others were the same. All of them had puzzled expressions, but they still knew that Yin Feng and the other two were the most suspicious. At this moment, Zhou Hao smiled and could not help but say, "Everyone, don't be anxious. Let's sort this out. Last night, I did say that I would get Vice Commander Yin Feng and the other two to capture Boss Zhou. Everyone heard me, and now Boss Zhou is dead. Yin Feng and the others are the most suspicious, right?" After Zhou Hao finished speaking, Zhou Baishan and the others nodded. "That's right. They must have killed them. Moreover, I received a mysterious letter this morning. It says that Yin Feng and the others killed my father and the Green Cloud Division gave them a reward. It also stated that as long as they take care of the problem of the Red Cliff Abyss, they will regain their freedom. They will also be allowed to join the association and be given resources to reach the Quasi-Heaven Realm and work for the Green Cloud Division. There's definitely no such thing. I, Yin Feng, can swear to the heavens that if there is, I'll be struck by lightning and die without a burial site." When Yin Feng heard this, he immediately swore. These were superstitious folk, after all. After saying this, he also got Commander An and the others to become less suspicious. Zhou Hao nodded and said, "I know about this matter. The Green Cloud Division is indeed willing to make such an offer. However, if Vice Commander Yin Feng and the others did not kill them, then who did? This is very strange. Actually, when I heard this news, I also thought that Vice Commander Yin Feng and the others were the ones who killed Boss Zhou. But now, it seems that Vice Commander Yin Feng and the others might not be the real culprits." Zhou Hao began to analyze. The reason why he said this was to bait them. "That's right, there's no way we could have killed Boss Zhou. Although we desire freedom, but aren't we courting death by going against you guys?" Hua Manlu and Tu Shan hurriedly nodded. Commander An, Senior Qian, and the other supernatural experts looked at each other and calmed down. What Yin Feng said was not unreasonable. There was really no need for them to go against them like this. Regardless of whether what the Green Cloud Division said was true or not, the three of them would simply be courting death if they really went against the Red Cliff Abyss. In that case, this person was not killed by Vice Commander Yin Feng or us. Of course, we're not just saying this to avoid trouble. It's just that we don't have the strength. If we did, we would have done it ourselves long ago. Pardon me for being direct. Even if the few of us did kill Boss Zhou, you guys still wouldn't dare to do anything to us. After all, we are protected by the Green Cloud Division. If you attack us, the Green Cloud Division will definitely not tolerate it. Moreover, our instructors are Supernatural Yang Hui and Supernatural Bai Ling Long. One of them is an 8th grade supernatural expert and the other is a Quasi-Heaven Realm expert. It's easy for them to kill you, right?" Zhou Hao's words were also unpleasant to hear, but it had to be said that this was the truth. Even if Zhou Hao and the others killed Boss Zhou, it would still be fine. After all, the Green Cloud Division had countless experts. Any supernatural expert above the 6th grade could kill them. Moreover, there's something else to consider. For so many years, the Green Cloud Division has not attacked you guys, so they won't suddenly attack at this moment. Moreover, even if they did, they wouldn't have done it secretly. You should know how powerful the Green Cloud Division is. The few of you are insignificant in their eyes. Therefore, we can safely say that we are not the culprits. As for the Green Cloud Division and Vice Commander Yin Feng, we can't eliminate them, but they aren't too suspicious either. Does anyone have any objections to what I say? Everyone nodded at Zhou Hao's words. Their logic was very clear. Although it was not pleasant to hear, they all knew that it was not unreasonable. So, after everything you said, are you saying that no one's suspicious? You guys are not suspicious, the Green Cloud Division is not suspicious, and Yin Feng and the others are the same. Then, who could have killed Boss Zhou? Could it have been us? Commander An spoke at this moment. His words seemed casual, but it made the expressions of everyone present change. Especially Yin Feng and the other two. Their eyes lit up as they looked at them. Zhou Hao also smiled and looked at Commander An and the others. You what's with your gazes? Could it be that someone from the Red Cliff Abyss killed Boss Zhou? Our Red Cliff Abyss has always been united. How is that possible? Commander An's expression was ugly. He did not expect his casual words to cause such a huge reaction. Yin Feng and the others narrowed their eyes. Hua Manlu even sized up Commander An and the others. Actually, I just wanted to say that Boss Zhou's death has already been decided. The only person who can kill a supernatural expert is a supernatural expert. And the only ones with this strength are Vice Commander Yin Feng and the others, as well as everyone else in the Red Cliff Abyss. Other than them, there's no one else. Moreover, don't you think it's a little too coincidental that young Master Zhou received a letter from a mysterious person this morning? How was he able to receive the news so quickly? Moreover, I think Yin Feng and the others aren't stupid. We aren't stupid either. If we were the ones who killed Boss Zhou, why wouldn't we just bury the corpses in the wilderness? I think there must be someone else behind this. After Zhou Hao finished speaking, the expressions of Commander An and the others changed drastically. It was the same for Zhou Baishan. He turned around and looked at Commander An and the others with a suspicious expression. Clearly, he had believed Zhou Hao's words. And this was what Zhou Hao wanted to do. He had killed Boss Zhou for this to happen. Chapter 406, Everyone is suspicious. By killing Boss Zhou, Zhou Hao had done two things. Firstly, he was able to frame Yin Feng and the others. At the same time, he could also sow discord between the members of the Red Cliff Abyss. After all, in everyone's eyes, Zhou Hao and the others did not have the strength to kill Boss Zhou. Therefore, Zhou Hao and the others were naturally not suspected. As for Yin Feng and the other two, although they were suspicious, the use of the letter actually made them less suspicious. After all, if they were the ones who killed Boss Zhou, they would have destroyed the evidence. Why would they leak the information? Clearly, someone was trying to sow discord. Clearly, someone was trying to benefit by sowing discord between Boss Zhou of Red Cliff Abyss and Yin Feng and the other vice-commanders of 100 City. Zhou Baishan was not stupid. Although he had just lost his cool from anger, he still regained his senses after hearing Zhou Hao's words. Commander An, Senior Qian, and President Sun, the few of you have some grudges with my father. Others might not know, but I do. Today, you have to give me an explanation. Otherwise, our auction house will not let you off even if we give up everything. Zhou Baishan's eyes were red as he spoke directly. Nephew, don't be excited. There's something wrong with this matter. You can't listen to that kid's lies. Maybe this is all a setup. Commander An's expression changed as he hurriedly said. Although Boss Zhou was dead, the auction house was still powerful. Boss Zhou had many friends in the Red Cliff Abyss and many supernatural experts had good relationships with him. If they really fought, even if Commander An and the others could destroy the auction house, they would still be severely injured. Commander An, don't be too quick to say that I'm misleading everyone. Last night, I said that I wanted Yin Feng and the others to kill Boss Zhou. I won't deny that. However, someone wants to use my name to kill Boss Zhou and frame Vice Commander Yin Feng and the others. This is also a possibility. You can't deny it. Zhou Hao was honest and straightforward. He directly admitted that he wanted to kill Boss Zhou, but they all knew that Zhou Hao and the others were not capable of killing him. Therefore, it was also possible for others to kill Boss Zhou just to frame it on Yin Feng and the vice commanders. To be honest, this matter doesn't matter to us at all. I actually hope that you guys can have a conflict with Vice Commander Yin Feng and the others. In fact, I actually want to see young Master Zhou do everything to kill Vice Commander Yin Feng and the other two. In this way, won't the 6 of us be able to smoothly take over the 100 City? Moreover, this will also be able to greatly exhaust your Red Cliff Abyss. It's simply a win for us. However, the reason why I did not do this is because I want to know the truth. Because to me, I have only come to the 100 City to train. I will leave sooner or later. Everything here is just fleeting clouds for us. Our only goal is to show the Green Cloud Division some results. However, we also know that our strength is limited. We will do as much as we can, and it doesn't matter even if we fail in the end. Our statuses in the Green Cloud Division are not low, and we are even elites that have been selected. The Green Cloud Division has spent a lot of effort to train us, and they definitely won't just throw us away. I think I've already made myself clear. As for the grudges between the rest of you, I honestly don't really care. I'm simply not interested in your internal strife. Zhou Hao shrugged and did not say anything else. He left with Su Ling and the others. Although they had left, the scene was very gloomy and terrifying. Zhou Baishan's expression was extremely ugly. He glared at Commander An and the others and snorted. I'll investigate this matter to the end. As he spoke, Zhou Baishan carried Zhou Kang's corpse and left. Commander An and the others also observed the surrounding people with doubts. On the other hand, Yin Feng and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Their suspicion had been washed away a lot, but they were relieved. Phew, that was close. I almost offended the people from the Red Cliff Abyss and almost lost my life. Yin Feng took a deep breath and felt a lingering fear. Hua Manlu and Tu Shan were the same. Big brother, the only reason why this situation can be resolved today is because that brat Zhou Hao is smart. Otherwise, we would have been the scapegoats today. Tu Shan was a straightforward person and admitted that Zhou Hao's words just now were concise and comprehensive. Thinking back now, although Zhou Hao and the others were arrogant, most of what he said ended up helping them. This made Tu Shan somewhat touched. Indeed. If not for Zhou Hao and the others, we probably... Yin Feng also took a deep breath and looked at Hua Manlu before asking, "Second brother, you're smart. What's going on? Also, why did that Zhou Hao do this today?" Hua Manlu was also confused, but hearing his older brother ask this, he thought for a moment and said, "This matter, I think that what Zhou Hao said is most likely true. It's probably someone within the Red Cliff Abyss who's trying to frame us and make us fight to the death with the auction. However, Zhou Hao has seen through their goal. That's why we were able to escape this calamity. However, I'm still a little puzzled. After all, Zhou Hao and the others will be the ones to benefit in this matter. Whether it's the internal strife in the Red Cliff Abyss or Red Cliff Abyss targeting us, it's all good news for them. But he helped us today. Perhaps he wants to subdue us." Hua Manlu analyzed, and Tu Shan immediately said, "What the heck? A mere Grandmaster actually wants to subdue us. Isn't this a fool's dream?" Yin Feng shook his head. "Third brother, Zhou Hao, and the others have a limitless future. They're already a Grandmaster at such a young age. They'll definitely become supernatural experts in the future. They might even be able to break through to the quasi-heaven realm. Moreover, Zhou Hao is indeed intelligent. Without him today, the 3 of us might very well have been killed by Commander An and the others. No matter what, we owe Zhou Hao a favor." "Perhaps you're right. Zhou Hao wants to rope us in. However, should we let him rope us in?" Yin Feng took a deep breath and fell into a dilemma. They could not afford to offend the Red Cliff Abyss, nor could they afford to offend Zhou Hao and the others. Compared to the Red Cliff Abyss, the Green Cloud Division was the true overlord. In front of the Green Cloud Division, the 3 of them were like ants. It was easy for them to kill them. At this moment, Hua Manlu took a deep breath and thought for a moment before saying, "Big brother, why don't we submit to Zhou Hao and the others?" Chapter 407, Surrender. Hearing this, Yin Feng's expression changed. Even Tu Shan was the same. "Second brother, are you serious? Yin Feng had actually thought of this before. However, he was a supernatural expert after all. It would be really embarrassing for him to submit to Zhou Hao and the others. Moreover, if he were to join Zhou Hao and the others, he would have to completely break off relations with the Red Cliff Abyss. Big brother, I know what you're thinking. I know that you're worried about the Red Cliff Abyss, but after what happened to Boss Zhou, I feel that with the internal strife going on in the Red Cliff Abyss, they won't be able to help us at all. In addition, it's fine if this is just an internal conflict. However, I'm afraid that a pair of big hands is stirring up trouble behind the scenes. If that's the case, the situation will be different. If we don't stand in line, Boss Zhou's outcome will be ours. Hua Manlu spoke directly with an intense unease. You're saying that all of this is very likely done by the Green Cloud Division. Yin Feng was somewhat surprised. Although he could not figure out why the Green Cloud Division would do this, he knew that the powerful Green Cloud Division need not resort to such methods. Hua Manlu shook his head and looked at the commander residence opposite. I think this is not the Green Cloud Division's method. It's very likely Zhou Hao's methods. At the same time, Zhou Hao and the others returned to the commander residence. They were all curious about today's matter. Zhou Hao, what happened today? How did Boss Zhou die? Su Ling and the others were all confused just now. At this moment, they were all asking impatiently. Zhou Hao smiled and naturally wouldn't say that he was the one who killed it. Instead, he said, the Red Cliff Abyss is also a place of scheming. As long as there are people, there will be scheming. I was just casually saying that yesterday, but I didn't expect to really catch a big fish today. Some people want to frame Yin Feng and the others for Boss Zhou's death. The reason why I persuaded them to shift the blame to the Red Cliff Abyss is because I want to protect them. This way, we can greatly weaken the strength of the Red Cliff Abyss. Yin Feng and the others should also understand that once the Red Cliff Abyss falls into an internal conflict, it's only a matter of time before it's destroyed. Therefore, they have no choice but to defect to us. Zhou Hao smiled. After he finished speaking, the few of them were shocked. They had not expected this at all. Zhou Hao had changed the entire situation with his words. In the end, he had caused an internal strife in the Red Cliff Abyss and even managed to rope in Yin Feng and the others. The few of them were incomparably shocked. They did not expect Zhou Hao to create such a situation in such a short period of time. Zhou Hao, you're really two-faced. You instigated a few factions in the Red Cliff Abyss with just a few words and even roped in Yin Feng and the others. Yun Yan curled her lips and said. What do you know? This is called planning strategies without spilling blood. Zhou Hao, impressive. Yuan Cheng chuckled. What he cared about was safety. With Zhou Hao doing this, everyone's gazes were now moved away from them. Not only was there an internal strife in the Red Cliff Abyss, Yin Feng and the others had also become grateful to them / even if they did not defect, it was still fine. At the very least, they were much safer now. Zhou Hao's actions have given us a lot of time. Su Ling also nodded. Despite how mischievous his ideas were, it had to be said that the effect was very good. Then what happens next? Will Yin Feng and the others really join us? If they do, will we accept them? Fang Yu asked a key question. Zhou Hao said directly, of course. Those are supernatural experts. They have considerable combat strength. But I keep feeling that it's not safe. They're not good people, Fang Yu said. Zhou Hao smiled faintly. That's fine. As long as we don't go overboard, they won't do anything to us. Moreover, the Green Cloud Division is behind us. The three of them are supernatural experts. It's not easy for them to have such strength. There's no need for them to ruin their future because of us Grandmasters. On the contrary, they will have more opportunities after following us. I'm not joking when I say that they will regain their freedom after the matter is done. If the matter in the Red Cliff Abyss is resolved, and we all break through to the supernatural level, it's fine to bring them to the Green Cloud Division. At the very least, no one will object, right? After Zhou Hao finished speaking, they all understood. At this moment, Zhou Hao sensed the auras of Yin Feng and the other two and smiled. Our guests are here. As Zhou Hao spoke, he went out of the commander residence with the others. Outside the door, Yin Feng and the other two stood there obediently with all the other martial artists. Greetings, Commander. As soon as Zhou Hao and the others came out, Yin Feng and the other two spoke loudly. The other martial artists even spoke in unison. Their aura was somewhat extraordinary. Vice Commander Yin Feng, what are you doing? Zhou Hao blinked and asked directly. Commander Zhou, the three of us were negligent previously. We're really sorry. You're the commanders appointed by the Green Cloud Division and we're vice commanders. This is what we are supposed to do. Hua Manluo hurriedly smiled and said. I see, if so, we won't refuse. This Hua Manluo was rather smart. He was clearly here to defect, but he managed to sound so evil. How interesting. Thank you, Senior Commander. I've brought all the martial artists here. If you have any instructions, they won't dare to disobey. Yin Feng also hurriedly said. Zhou Hao nodded. Thank you, sirs. We're all smart people here, so I'll get straight to the point. I know what you want. If our mission succeeds, I'll bring you out of here. After Zhou Hao finished speaking, the three of them immediately revealed happy expressions. If they could get out, who would be willing to stay in this god-forsaken place? Moreover, because of Boss Zhou's death in the Red Cliff Abyss, the dangerous wilderness forest had become even more murderous. A fight might just break out suddenly. They still understood the logic of being implicated. Thank you, Commander Zhou. The three of them hurriedly cupped their hands in thanks. There's no need for the three of you to be so polite. Although we're commanders, you guys are the seniors. With the three of you helping us, the six of us will be more at ease. We should have been on the same side to begin with. It's really good that we can now cooperate with each other. Zhou Hao smiled and continued. How can we not celebrate such a happy occasion? Why don't we go to Senior Qian's brilliant club to take a look? As soon as Zhou Hao said this, the expressions of Yin Feng and the other two changed. If they brought Zhou Hao and the others over, wouldn't the others know that they have defected? However, they would eventually know sooner or later. Therefore, Yin Feng took a deep breath and nodded. Chapter 408, Problem. Zhou Hao smiled. He had long wanted to go and take a look at the Red Cliff Abyss, but he did not have the chance. Now that he had the chance, he naturally had to go and take a look. Of course, Zhou Hao also wondered if it might be dangerous. However, after thinking carefully, he realized that they would not be in any danger. Firstly, they had Yin Feng and the other two supernatural experts around. Moreover, they were from the Green Cloud Division and these people wouldn't rashly harm them. Finally, Zhou Hao still had a trump card, which was himself. With a quasi-heaven realm cultivation and heaven realm combat strength, these people were simply not his match. In the end, if he really needed to, he could just kill them. It would not be a problem. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao decided that it was fine to go and take a look. Moreover, with all the chaos going on in the Red Cliff Abyss, it was easier for him to understand the situation by going there directly. The group started to travel after their conversation. Not long after, they passed through some red cliffs and arrived at a desert city. Although it was located in the desert, the Red Cliff Abyss was actually quite lively. Zhou Hao felt an inexplicable sense that this place was somewhat special. It had a special aura that distinguished it from the red cliffs outside. The Red Cliff Abyss was also extremely luxurious. Although this place was barren, there were many people coming and going. They even saw many mutated beasts and races. It was rare to see mutated beasts and humans coexisting in peace like this. The Red Cliff Abyss was only the name of the region. The desert city here also had its own name, like the 100 City. This place was called the Red City and was 100 miles in size. Although it was not big, it had all the necessary materials. The people who came here were either evil or chased by their enemies and ended up here. To be honest, Zhou Hao and the others had thought about this place a lot. However, after coming here today, they were still somewhat surprised. This place did not look so chaotic at all. Instead, it was orderly like an ordinary city. Is this the Red Cliff Abyss? Zhou Hao looked at Yin Feng and the other two and asked directly. Yes, this is the Red Cliff Abyss. Although the people here are very chaotic, the Red Cliff Abyss has strict rules. No one is allowed to fight in the city. Anyone who violates this rule will definitely die. After Yin Feng finished speaking, Zhou Hao and the others were stunned for a moment. Those who disobey will die? Could there be someone in charge of the order here? If there was such a rule, there would definitely be people who would enforce it. If not, who would be responsible for punishing the rule breakers? Yes, this person is the Red Cliff King. Yin Feng's expression was very solemn. These words made Zhou Hao and the others frown. They could not help but say, Red Cliff King? A Heaven Realm expert. No one knows his cultivation level, and very few people see him. However, as long as someone fights in the city, they will be punished. 3 years ago, I saw 2 third-grade supernatural experts fighting. Then, a huge hand descended from the sky and directly killed the 2 of them. Originally, the Red Cliff King's name was a thing of the past, so many people were skeptical. However, very few people dared to challenge the rule themselves. However, the scene 3 years ago still made everyone shut their mouths. They knew that the Red Cliff King was still alive. After Yin Feng finished speaking, Zhou Hao and the others were somewhat shocked. After all, there was no information about the Red Cliff King in the Red Cliff Abyss. Even this name was something Zhou Hao and the others had just heard. In that case, he must be a Heaven Realm expert. Zhou Hao was afraid. Fortunately, he had killed Boss Zhou on the way yesterday. Otherwise, if he killed him in the Red Cliff Abyss, he might have attracted that Heaven Realm expert. Although he could resist the attack of a 3rd grade Heaven Realm expert, what if the Red Cliff King was above the 3rd grade? Wouldn't he be done for? Thinking of this, they had already arrived at the brilliant club of the Red Cliff Abyss. Looking from afar, this brilliant club was indeed glorious. It was dazzling and shocking. With Yin Feng and the other 2 here, it was naturally not a problem for them to enter. The 3 of them were already frequent guests of the brilliant club, so when they saw them arrive, an etiquette lady immediately invited them in and brought them to a huge private room. There was everything here. The service here was also perfect. However, Zhou Hao did not come here to play. Instead, he came here to meet this senior Qian. That's right. Zhou Hao's main goal was to meet him. Visiting the Red Cliff Abyss was only his secondary goal. As for fun, a martial artist like him did not care much about that. Senior Qian must have heard the news that we're here. He'll probably come over in a while. I wonder what his attitude will be like. Yin Feng frowned. This senior Qian was not someone to be trifled with. His foundation in the Red Cliff Abyss was deep. Although he was only a supernatural expert, if they really fought, probably half of the people in the Red Cliff Abyss would back him up. With just the few of them, they would probably be killed without any hesitation. Don't worry, I believe Senior Qian won't be hostile towards us. Zhou Hao smiled. Ignoring the fact that they did not have any ill intentions, even if they did, Senior Qian would not be stupid enough to kill them in his territory. As soon as Zhou Hao finished speaking, the door was pushed open and Senior Qian walked in with a smile. So it's the 100 city commanders. Welcome, welcome. Senior Qian looked lively. If not for his aggressive attitude last night, people would definitely think that he was a good person to talk to. He had a kind and fawning expression. However, Zhou Hao knew that this guy was definitely the most difficult to deal with among the few of them. Senior Qian, you're too polite. We're just here to entertain ourselves. How could we alarm you? Zhou Hao immediately smiled. His words stunned Senior Qian. Of course, he was not stunned by Zhou Hao's words. Instead, he was stunned by the fact that Yin Feng and the other two stood behind Zhou Hao without making a sound when he was speaking. Although it was very subtle, he still sensed it. He knew that Yin Feng and the others had probably already submitted to Zhou Hao and the others. While he was shocked, he was also somewhat surprised. After all, Zhou Hao was actually able to make Yin Feng and the others submit to him despite only having a Grand Master level cultivation. He really had some tricks up his sleeve. In particular, Zhou Hao's words today had made everyone in the Red Cliff Abyss panic. He did not dare to underestimate this young man. Commander Zhou has a noble status, how could I not dare to come? Senior Qian smiled and continued, Senior Zhou, there's something I want to ask you, but don't know if I should. Zhou Hao nodded. Senior Qian, feel free to ask. Senior Qian took a deep breath and said. I want to ask if you had anything to do with Boss Zhou's death. The moment Senior Qian spoke, they were shocked. Chapter 409, Invitation. When Zhou Hao heard this, he did not reveal any expressions, but he sneered in his heart. This Senior Qian was still testing him. It seemed that he still suspected that this matter was related to them. Of course, his suspicions were right. However, Zhou Hao and the others had not left behind any clues. His suspicions were entirely based on his hunch. Zhou Hao looked at Senior Qian and said indifferently, Senior Qian, do you think Boss Zhou's death has anything to do with us? Senior Qian did not expect Zhou Hao to answer like this, but he still took a deep breath. I think you do have something to do with it. After saying this, the scene immediately became strange. Yin Feng and the other two also took a deep breath and were prepared to fight at any moment. As for Su Ling and the others, their hearts jumped. They thought that Boss Qian was prepared to attack. Commander Zhou, I hope you won't mind me being frank. In the end, you were the one who benefited the most from this matter. I don't know why you're here, but for so many years, the Green Cloud Division has never sent anyone over. There must be a reason why they suddenly sent you here. If you don't wish to tell me, I will also stop asking any more questions. But I will say this, although I don't know how you did it, I still feel that you're the most suspicious. Senior Qian's words were understandable. Actually, most of what he said was right. However, Zhou Hao shook his head and looked at Senior Qian. He said, Senior Qian, you're really overestimating us. First of all, we've just arrived at the 100 City and the Red Cliff Abyss. Our foundation is already unstable. Not to mention dealing with you, we can't even make the martial artists of the commander residence listen to our orders. Why would we provoke you? Secondly, if we do have the ability, there would be no need for us to be secretive, right? Therefore, I still think you're still thinking too much. Zhou Hao's logic was sound. After saying this, Senior Qian took a deep breath. I understand, but I can't think of anyone in the Red Cliff Abyss who would want to kill Boss Zhou. What is the purpose of this? Senior Qian was very puzzled. He had long believed Zhou Hao's words. At this moment, he was actually testing Zhou Hao again to confirm his thoughts. This I didn't know. We just arrived here and haven't even sat down yet. Today is also the first day we came to the Red Cliff Abyss. Therefore, regarding this incident in the Red Cliff Abyss, I can only offer some of my analysis. As for who the murderer is, I really don't know. Zhou Hao smiled. That made Senior Qian feel much more relieved. Sigh, this matter is getting out of hand. Commander Zhou, as you probably know, most of us were chased here because we offended the Green Cloud Division. However, to be honest, many of us have never complained about the Green Cloud Division. After all, many of us here had done bad things. It's our own fault for being exiled like this. We don't blame anyone else. Actually, we are not trying to scheme against you at all. We just feel that your purpose here is not simple, so we're a little hostile towards you. Please don't take it to heart. Senior Qian was rather straightforward. Zhou Hao nodded secretly. Senior Qian, you sure are straightforward. Zhou Hao smiled. Senior Zhou, since there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Zhou Kang's matter is a little troublesome. Now, their Zhou family is acting like a crazy dog that bites anyone it sees. Senior Qian also sighed. At the moment, the Zhou family was suspicious of everyone. Thus, the current Red Cliff Abyss was in chaos. Zhou Hao nodded. After that, Senior Qian also left. Zhou Hao understood Senior Qian's attitude and was relieved. After all, the Red Cliff Abyss was currently somewhat chaotic. Thus, Zhou Hao's next move was dependent on Senior Qian's attitude. Zhou Hao and the others originally wanted to stroll around the Red Cliff Abyss. Unexpectedly, they immediately received an invitation from the Zhou family after coming out of the Brilliant Club. Commanders, I'm the Zhou family's housekeeper. My family's old master and eldest madam have invited you to the auction house. The person who arrived was an old man with a peak-level Grandmaster cultivation. He held an invitation in his hand, making Zhou Hao and the others stunned. If it's Senior Zhou's invitation, I'll naturally go. Zhou Hao smiled. He knew that the Zhou family was being kind and did not refuse. Instead, Yin Feng became a little worried. Commander Zhou, I think we shouldn't go. The Zhou family is very powerful. Zhou Kang's father is a 6th-grade supernatural expert. Even Zhou Kang's wife is a 3rd-grade supernatural expert. The Zhou family has been operating the auction house for so many years and is very powerful. If they deal with us, Yin Feng was naturally afraid. The Zhou family was now like a wild dog that bit everyone it saw. He was really worried that he would be affected, so he whispered to Zhou Hao. However, Zhou Hao smiled. Vice Commander Yin, you're thinking too much. The Zhou family won't make things difficult for us. Instead, if we don't go, we'll be even more suspicious. As Zhou Hao spoke, he let the person lead the way. Soon, they arrived at the auction house. Like the Brilliant Club, this auction house was also extremely luxurious. There were even huge palaces that looked like they could only appear in ancient novels. It was somewhat different from the conventional buildings they were used to. All auction houses needed strength. If not, why would they dare to auction treasures? Therefore, the strength of this Zhou family was definitely above that of the owner of the Brilliant Club. The group walked straight into the auction house and took the elevator to the top floor. On the top floor was the office of the auction house. At this moment, several people were seated. The leader among them was a white-haired old man. At this moment, his expression was cold and his supernatural cultivation emitted a murderous aura. This person was Zhou Kang's father, Zhou Kangdao. In this Red Cliff Abyss, he was also considered a veteran expert with a 6th-grade supernatural cultivation. He was definitely an expert. With a stomp of his foot, the entire Red Cliff Abyss would tremble. Sitting beside him was a middle-aged woman. Her eyes were red and swollen. Clearly, she had just cried. If Zhou Hao was not wrong, this was Zhou Kang's wife. Zhou Baishan was sitting there, and his expression was also not very good. When they saw Zhou Hao and the others walk in, they all looked over. Yin Feng's expression was incomparably nervous. Hua Manlu and the others behind him were all the same. Only Zhou Hao had a calm expression. Senior Zhou. Zhou Hao smiled and said when he saw Zhou Kang. Su Ling and the others also nodded and did not say anything. Zhou Kangdao looked at Zhou Hao and snorted coldly. He immediately said, Commander Zhou, how dare you scheme against my son? If you don't give me an explanation for this, you won't be able to leave this auction house today. As soon as Zhou Kangdao spoke, the atmosphere immediately became tense. An invisible killing intent spread in the surroundings. Chapter 410, Alien. No one expected Zhou Kangdao's words, but they were still prepared. Yin Feng, Hua Manlu, and the other two hurriedly regulated their auras. Although Zhou Kangdao was a 6th grade supernatural expert and was not someone they could resist, they still had a chance of survival if they fought to the death. As for Su Ling and the others, their expressions changed slightly, but they did not say anything. Old Master Zhou, what's the meaning of this? You invited us here to participate in the auction, but now you want us to give you an explanation. I think you should have some guesses as to what's going on. We have no reason to attack Boss Zhou. Yin Feng hurriedly said. He was really worried that Zhou Kangdao would attack. Humph, is that so? Commander Zhou, tell me, why did the Green Cloud Division send you here? If you don't tell me, don't blame me for being impolite. Zhou Kangdao stood up and his powerful cultivation seeped out of his body. Although he was only a 6th grade supernatural expert, his cultivation suppressed everyone present. Su Ling and the others were immediately suppressed by this aura until their faces turned pale. After all, they were only grandmasters and were naturally unable to resist. Zhou Hao was able to resist. As a quasi-heaven realm expert, he only needed a thought to kill Zhou Kangdao. However, he still pretended to be affected. Senior Zhou, you're mistaken. We didn't kill Boss Zhou. There's no reason for us to do so. Secondly, if we really wanted to kill Boss Zhou, there's no need for us to go through so much hassle. After all, we could have just gotten any quasi-heaven realm expert from the Green Cloud Division to deal with you, right? Zhou Hao did not panic at all because he knew from the beginning that Zhou Kangdao did not plan to make things difficult for them at all. Just like Senior Qian, he was only testing them. Judging from Zhou Baishan and the woman's unchanged expressions, their Zhou family had long decided that they were not responsible for Boss Zhou's death. Otherwise, they would have also invited them to the auction. Zhou Kangdao narrowed his eyes and looked deeply at Zhou Hao. Only then did he retract his aura and sit down. Servants, bring our guests some tea and seats. With that said, someone brought a chair and steeped tea. Commander Zhou, do you have anything to say about my son's death? Zhou Kangdao said indifferently. Zhou Hao smiled. Senior Zhou, I really have nothing to say about this. I can only say that we weren't responsible. As for who did it, I really don't know. Although I wanted to convict Boss Zhou, there's still a limit to my strength. I am simply not strong enough to kill him. Zhou Kangdao naturally knew this logic, so he said, I understand what you mean. To be honest, I also don't believe that you guys were the ones who did it. It's not that you guys don't have the strength, but it's simply not reasonable. After all, if the Green Cloud Division wanted to touch us, they would have done so long ago. There's a reason why they didn't. Others might not know what this reason is, but I know. Hearing this, Zhou Hao's expression changed and he frowned. He really wanted to ask what the reason was. This reason must be very shocking, and there might even be a huge secret. Otherwise, the Green Cloud Division would definitely not let this Red Cliff Abyss stay here and ignore it. Don't you want to know what the reason is? Zhou Kangdao looked at Zhou Hao and saw that he did not ask. Zhou Hao sighed. Senior Zhou, to be honest, I really want to know, but I know that the more I know, the more dangerous it is for me. I don't want to get involved in the current situation in the Red Cliff Abyss. After Zhou Hao finished speaking, Zhou Kangdao sneered. Commander Zhou, do you think you are not involved with this matter? Because of what you said that day, you were also indirectly responsible for my son's death. You can't deny that, right? Zhou Hao naturally could not deny Zhou Kang's words. I don't deny what Senior Zhou said. The Green Cloud Division asked me to overhaul this place, so I naturally have to put on a show. However, Senior Zhou, please be considerate. I really didn't expect this matter to turn out like this. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have said what I said. Zhou Kangdao frowned slightly when he heard this, but he did not say anything and asked. Commander Zhou, you're smart. The reason why I called you over today is to ask you to help me find the murderer. Find the murderer? Senior Joe, this is really a little difficult. I just arrived here and am unfamiliar with this place. I also don't know about the problem with your Red Cliff Abyss. How can I help you find the murderer? Zhou Hao felt very helpless. Could this old man be crazy to ask him to help him find the murderer? Commander Zhou, you're too humble. Your intelligence far exceeds most people. Moreover, your analysis was helpful. I heard from Baishan that if not for your analysis, we might have mistaken the enemy as a friend. Zhou Kangdao also found his analysis convincing. After all, Zhou Hao's logic was sound. It was simply impossible for others to figure out Zhou Hao's scheme. Thank you for your praise, Senior Zhou, but I really can't do it. Zhou Hao waved his hand. Commander Zhou, let me finish first. There is something you're not supposed to know. However, after I finish speaking, you might be able to guess. Actually, this matter is related to a secret. At least, that's what I think. It's related to the huge secret of the Red Cliff Abyss. Zhou Kang's words immediately piqued Zhou Hao's curiosity. What kind of secret was this? Actually, it's not that the Green Cloud Division doesn't want to take this place back. It's just that they can't and don't have the ability. Both mutated beasts and humans have wanted to claim this place for themselves, but they can't. Zhou Kangdao's words shocked Zhou Hao on the spot. Zhou Hao did not understand how this was possible. Putting humans aside first, how could it be possible for the mutated beasts to lack the ability to take back this land? This was a little ridiculous. I know you don't believe it. Actually, I don't believe it either, but this is the secret of the Red Cliff Abyss. This secret is related to the Red Cliff King. Similarly, it's also related to a secret that can overturn the world. Zhou Kangdao's words were becoming more and more mysterious. After Zhou Hao heard this, he was really tempted. Even Su Ling and the others were the same. It was really unbelievable that such a huge secret that could overturn the world existed. You should know that there's a Red Cliff King here who controls the order here. Actually, what I want to say is that this matter arose because of the Red Cliff King. In fact, this matter has still not ended. Zhou Kangdao sighed, and Zhou Hao and the others listened intently. What was the background of this Red Cliff King? He was actually related to this big secret. And what was this big secret? Senior Zhou, don't keep us waiting. Tell us quickly, Zhou Hao hurriedly urged. Zhou Kangdao took a deep breath and said slowly. Actually, this secret itself is the Red Cliff King. And this Red Cliff King is not a human or a member of the foreign race. Instead he's an alien from outer space, an alien.